Hey kids, this is Aaron from the podcast that wouldn't die, and Kevin and I use Zencastr. You think you're better than us, that you're using something else? You're wrong. Zencastr's the place to be. Who are you to deny it?
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code DIEHARD and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time for you to share your story.
Only a fool will give up a chance for a 30% discount.
My name is Martin. I'm 84 years old. People think I'm crazy when I tell them how old I am. I'd like to be normal. I just have a sickness.
Martin, another kind of terror.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hey, guys.
This week, we're discussing the horror classic, Martin, starring a bunch of randos from Pittsburgh. Although, if you look close, you see Tom Savini.
Dude, not so many randos.
Oh, and George Romero. If you look real close, you see
George Romero.
And this is George Romero. So it's like a it's like a family play put on at the school barn where they just, Uncle Goober is running the lights and Aunt Fanny is knitting the costumes, is what it is.
It is just one step above. What was the film our brothers were in? The Blood is Tainted.
Bloodhouse.
Bloodhouse. If you can find it on YouTube. Ignatius Benju.
That's a deep pull. That's a deep pull.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Each week in the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genres with a comedic twist. Aaron, what's the latest?
Oh my God. I went up to Santa Cruz. I flew because I knew it's 4-hour drive, but getting there was going to be fine. But coming back, I know it was going to be like I was hit by a truck. In fact, I took an extra day off to recover from my vacation. I stayed in bed and watched TV, never leaving.
That's not
If
bad.
I would have peed in a jar.
You would have pulled the full Howard Hughes, is what you're saying.
My friend insisted we get to the airport like 6 hours before a domestic flight. So we just sat. I went to her terminal. We just sat there and just drank for hours. And then she sailed away and I wandered off 2 terminals away to mine, only to realize I was sitting in the wrong. Like it had moved, but I never got an update text. Just randomly, I heard this woman saying, "Did the flight to Reno already leave? I was just sitting here." They're like, "Ma'am, that left 10 minutes ago." I've been sitting here this whole time. And all of a sudden I was like, let me double check. I'm at E6, just like the notice says. Let me go to the big board. Oh, F6. So I ran off there and hid. And then I thought my plane was going to crash 2 minutes from home. So that was fun. Like you're sailing along and I can see the city, but all of a sudden the pilot pulled the plane straight up into the air. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. This is not nice. I tried to look across the aisle to the man sitting next to me to see if he was going to reach out to hold my hand. And he did not.
Did you reach out to hold his hand? Maybe he needed it.
I want to hold your hand. According to the pilot, the air turned back because we had that haboob here in Bakersfield. So they were haboobing it again, I guess. So we
What's
had
a haboob? What is that? What are you talking about?
It's a weird weather thing.
Never heard of it in my life.
Sandstorms, pressure, but the boob made they're like, the weather turned sour, so we had to get out of the way. And then even though to the city. All of a sudden, we were in the clouds. And then 30 minutes later, I started seeing the city again as we came in a different direction. So I was like, can I not almost die every
Sweet
time I fly?
Jesus. That I
I
mean,
don't
that's a
mind
question.
mistaken. Not, I just don't care for the mysterious. We're about to land, then suddenly the plane goes straight up for no apparent reason and no explanation.
I mean, it could be worse. You could see the pilot wearing a parachute and going like, "I'll see you guys later."
That's right. I've always hated you. I've hated you, and all you people. I mean, it could have been that.
100%.
At least it went up. It wasn't one of those drops. The drops make me want to like projectile vomit. I'm always like, just in case, where is that little bag? And I'm like, of course, I'm flying first class, so this will be the time I die.
That's pretty standard.
That'll be the Catholic lesson. You reach too far, and
We always talk about that Lucy suffers from air sickness. So whenever we fly, she's going to throw up. And so the question is, what poor innocent stranger is going to sit next to our child as she's yakking in the air sickness bag?
Dude, I hope you bring those gallon Ziploc bags, because those little things look like something you'd put a Christmas card on. It's like an envelope that size. I hope you're bringing those 2-gallon Ziplocs. And on top of that, why don't you drug that? Can't you drug that child?
No. What's the fun in that? What's the fun in that? We hit some Taco Bell and hit it.
More talk and pickled eggs.
100%.
I have friends that have a boat, so when I go to Washington, they want to take me out on the boat. But I mean, if you're going at a fast clip, I'm okay. But they wanted to fish, so I like doubled down on Dramamine. I think I told you the story where I was just like laying there with my eyes closed because I was so drugged up. I'm like, I'm not asleep. I hear everything you say. I just can't move or open my eyes.
You were Chumley.
I'm unable to have a conversation, but I am listening and aware. It's like one of those fake comas where they think you're dead, but you're fully awake.
It was Serpent in the Rainbow.
Oh, baby!
It was the Serpent
burial.
100%. 100%. Why don't you give us your 30-second synopsis of Martin?
Martin is a young man who is socially awkward. He thinks he's like a 400-year-old vampire, and apparently so does his family. It's like some curse that runs in the family, but they don't bother to snip their kids when they're young so they don't reproduce to stop the curse. Everybody else, as with all things, everybody thinks it doesn't apply to them. So he goes to live with another cousin where he continues to be homicidal and socially awkward. Until Uncle Fester finally has enough of his bullshit, and the end's the end.
This movie, I had heard of Martin. This is one of the George Romero movies that are not zombie related.
It's true, no zombies.
And I believe this is the movie he did directly before Dawn of the Dead, which basically saved his career. He loves it. He loves Martin. The critics and the audiences a little on the fence of old Martin. Like essentially George Romero did Night of the Living Dead, and people. By the way, maybe you don't know the story, but I
have heard of Night of the Living Dead.
Very popular,
zombies, right?
Very popular thing. But when they were filling out the form for the what am I trying to say? The rights to the movie. Originally the movie was going to be called Night of the Flesh Eaters. So that's what it said on the form to secure the rights of this movie. And they messed it up because they changed the title. So they don't have the rights. It's in the public domain, which is why
I got it for $2 at Walmart one year.
100%. Like I could basically print copies of Night of the Living Dead out of my garage and sell them, and it'd be perfectly legal. So we didn't make a whole lot of money from Night of the Living Dead. And then their next few movies that he did, it was like the original Season of the Witch, not Halloween 3. The Crazies, which is basically false zombies. Like it's a zombie movie by another name. And
I
Martin,
believe I like the Crazies, and in fact, I've been known to ask students in my class, "You got a case of the Crazies?
got
What's going on?"
100% case of the Crazies. So it was the fact that none of those were big hits. He was basically in debt,
How can
and
these not be hits?
they were not hits. Those three movies were not hits. It wasn't
He's a
until
man too soon. Too soon.
before his time. So it wasn't until Dawn of the Dead, which was a huge global hit, that suddenly he was like, okay, we're back in the high life again, like Steve Winwood said.
Back in the high life again.
100%. So had you seen this before?
Like 1,000 times.
1,000 times. Okay.
There was a time in the video store days that somehow I had a connection with this movie and I kept watching it.
Really?
I think I felt much more sympathetic to Martin in my youth than I do now.
You were the Martin of your group, is what you're saying.
Because I'm watching it now, I was like, he's kind of a jackass. He's not cool. He is not sympathetic.
I had heard of Martin, and I knew basically what the premise is. There's a dude who thinks he's a vampire. I knew that going in. Because the title doesn't tell you anything. The title, I mean, this could be about anything under the sun, which is probably not the best idea for a title, if I'm being honest. But I knew the basic premise, but I had never seen it. I had not seen one frame of this movie. So
I rented it. It wasn't like I was at the theater. I had rented it several times in the 80s.
I have to say, it's like from Jump Street, it almost has a porny quality to it.
It has a porny Rapey McRaperson, because some of the acting by a couple of the women is so bad. It's porn bad.
Correct. It's porn.
Not soap opera bad.
No.
It's 70s porn bad.
It's 70s porn bad. And then there's just kind of spontaneous, like, nudity. Full frontal nudity at one point. I mean, this woman at one point is bone naked. I see all her kibbles and bits. So, I mean...
Bits and bits and bits.
100%. 100%. So
not him. You saw no dangles. It was not the time for dangles. Those didn't come until the 2000s.
What's funny about the dude who plays Martin, because he has a very distinctive look. Like, his eyes are really kind of compelling. His eyes.
He's not unattractive. He's an attractive fellow, I would say.
Okay, fair. But I was like, what else has he been in? And then I realized, no, he was in a lot of like George Romero things, but he was never the star again. He was in, if you haven't seen Dawn of the Dead lately, which is an all-time classic, I think I like Dawn of the Dead more than I like Night of the Living Dead, if I'm being honest. There's a scene in the beginning of Dawn of the Dead where it's the cops are like raiding a building, like the Puerto Rican gang has taken over the buildings. There's a bizarre shootout that's occurring at the beginning, if you remember this. And there's a Puerto Rican fellow who steps forward and says, "Holy shit, the pigs are everywhere." That is this actor in brownface. No. Yes, doing an offensive Puerto Rican accent. Okay, that's this dude.
It has been 1,000 years since I've seen Dawn of the Dead,
and he's probably killed. You don't see he's dead 5 minutes into the movie.
That was he cashed his check. He can keep his union health insurance for another year.
In Creepshow, he played the corpse coming out of the ground for Father's Day.
Where Aunt Bedelia was drinking it up.
Correct. He was the skeletal character coming out. Where's my father? Didn't provide the voice. He was just the body.
Where's my cake, Bedelia? Bring me my Father's Day cake.
In Day of the Dead, Day of the Dead, there was, okay, if you haven't seen Day of the Dead, there's like the army and the scientists are underground. The whole world's been taken over by zombies, blah, blah, blah. He was one of the scientists who was angry that the military guys are not letting them do their research. And he promptly gets killed by one of the soldiers half an hour into the movie. Not important.
They were a little unruly. They didn't seem to be following the rules.
But I was sitting here watching this movie going like, he's the star of this movie. He must have worked with Romero again. And I started running through the movies I've seen in the 10 years after this. And I was able to thread the needle as to figure out who he was. Because he's never the star again, as I said. I think he helped, like, he was acting as a casting director for Dawn of the Dead as well. Like he had many hats that he was wearing in it. So
interesting. It reminds me of there's another director that had one dude that just kept showing up until David Lynch. Remember David Lynch always had the dude from Eraserhead,
right,
who he just kind of kept on the books, kind of like
what's his name?
Took care of him. Nance. Jack Nance? Jack Palance?
Not Jack Palance. No, you're right. And again, same thing. He was the star of Eraserhead, but he's in Dune, he's in Twin Peaks, he's in Blue Velvet. He's like, he'll find you a role because you were with me.
And again, not the star, but he always finds a place to slide you in. He's taking care of you. You were there at the beginning. That's cool.
Now that we've walked down that particular memory lane, why don't we jump right into the highlights? Aaron, what do you got? Why don't you start us off?
Oh my God. I'm gonna just skip over the rape in the train, bang, right at the beginning.
I'm gonna hit that though. That is a crazy moment.
You could hit that. I like when he's delivering stuff to his uncles, and then you meet a 70s porn lady who's like she doesn't know how to speak as a human. It was so awkward. Her acting just threw me off. She gives him a ride back, and they end up in this crazy affair where she just cries all the time and then kills herself.
Well, we got to go back because essentially he travels from Indianapolis or some shit to Pittsburgh to visit his uncle, his cousin, his much older cousin, something along those lines, who's basically like
the other family's had enough of his nonsense. And
totally.
The uncle's planning on killing him anyway. I think he told him that.
He told him when he arrives. He says,
"I'll give you a job."
Yes, he says, "I will save your soul and then I will destroy you, vampire. But in the meantime, I think you can help around the shop if that's all the same with you." It makes absolutely sense. What are you waiting on, bro? It's like, okay,
he's
so
a vampire, and you're gonna let him drop off the deliveries for the old women.
What? And live in the house with your daughter in the next room or whatever the hell she is. With your granddaughter. She will talk to you, but you do not talk to her. Yes.
What did she call him? Like Tonta Kringle or something?
Yes, 100%. I am old Kris Kringle with a jingle, jangle, jingle. That's what it was. That's what he looked like, honestly. It was Burl Ives in his final role.
It's Burl Ives like you've never seen him.
Like you never wanted to see him. 100%. So it is. So he's the uncle or whatever the hell he is. The grandfather runs a little like general store that Martin's helping out in, and he does the deliveries. But I guess he just like hoofs it on foot to wherever he's in the greater Pittsburgh area.
And it takes place in Pittsburgh.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Oh, sweet Jesus! But you're right. He delivers. He delivers something to the lonely housewife, who very quickly is just like, "Yes, my husband's out of town. I'm in a loveless marriage. I'm very depressed. Can I touch your? Can I touch your hair? Can I touch your face? Oh, what are you doing?
Oh God.
It was so bizarre. It was the craziest shit because, and I want to go back to this. When we first meet Martin, he's on the train to Pittsburgh, and
Headed nowhere.
who the he took the midnight train
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
So right out of the gate, clearly it's like he is looking for chicks that he's attracted to. That's what this is all about,
Right.
essentially. So he
Besides
goes,
being a vampire, he's he's an incel who cannot talk to women. So
Yes.
besides getting his blood, he likes to rape them while they're unconscious.
it's crazy. The credits have barely rolled, and he is in her room, right on the train. He's waiting for her with a hypodermic needle. He sticks her, but of course she doesn't immediately pass out. She is thrashing and screaming. He's like, "You'll just
How do
fall
you not
asleep."
hear that on a train? I mean,
100%.
I've been on a train. I've been in a sleeper car. I can hear every thing going on in the next sleeper car.
100%. 100%. So she finally gets conked out. And I'm like, okay, now he's going to suck her blood. And then he starts taking her clothes off. And I'm like, whoa. This is literally 3 minutes into the movie where she is unconscious. He is raping her body and doing the thing where it's like, I'm putting your arms around me, your lifeless arms around me to simulate like this is.
Yeah, like we're in a relationship. I'm so disconnected from humans that this is my only way of finding connection. And I'm also going to drink you dry. I just feel like if he was not so stupid, there'd be a way of doing this. Well, everyone's alive and unraped.
Well, and he says,
First of all, you need a stronger drug because literally it took her half the movie to finally fall asleep.
no question. Well, he even said it's much easier now since I started using the hypodermic needles. Because before, I guess he just hold them down? I mean, this gets even worse. This goes from bad to worse. So then he's done doing his thing, and then you see him pull her arm up, and he takes a straight razor and just right down her arm, and then just blood. Boom.
That's the suicide way. Right. So I was like, I thought he was going for a sip. He's going for the magoo.
He'll take it right from the tap. I mean, it was the most upsetting 3 minutes. I mean, honestly, it is rough. This first scene, I'm like, oh my God. And where does this go from here? I mean, I imagine people were walking out of the theater in the first 5 minutes, right?
Fascinating. It's rough. It reminds me of Let Me In, where you're like, boom, you're right into this shit.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I don't remember this.
Right. I'm like, what did you recommend? Good.
I just always remember the vampire and Martin, because that's all I remembered.
Well, and that's the thing about this. He says at one point that I go, well, he's much older than you think he is. And he says, I'm 86. I'm really 86 years old. But
then in the description it says he's a 400-year-old vampire.
And then he has kind of, I don't know, these visions or memories or fantasies of clearly gothic, Dracula shit going down.
I can't figure out, are these memories or is this what he thinks is really happening? Like these women are coming on to him? Because there are sometimes where you see the woman who actually looks like she's into it in the black and white, and then snap to, you're really just murdering someone.
Right. Well, that's what happens in the beginning when he first meets, when he's waiting for that woman coming out of the bathroom. She is laying in bed, kind of beckoning him in black and white, and then of course it goes away, and now it's rape. It's this is a movie.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure if these are just parallels or things that have happened in the past, or if these are how he thinks reality is.
Honestly, it seems like because I know they say like here's a guy who thinks he's a vampire because he doesn't have any of the, he doesn't have fangs. He doesn't, he can walk around during the day, although he sometimes puts on sunglasses. He doesn't have any special powers or anything. And we're supposed to take for granted, that he's really an old person. Now, if it wasn't for crazy Uncle Burl Ives, who's fully convinced this is real, you would just think he was a lunatic, right?
Right.
You would just be like, and that would be kind of an interesting kind of story. It's like, is he really a vampire or is he just kind of a crazy person? But the fact that this older gentleman is like, yes, this is real and this happens in our family from time to time. What does it all mean? I don't know if we're
As a granddaughter, it seems to be aware of it too, but she doesn't believe it.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. It's like the grandfather's like hanging garlic on his door and is like waving a cross at him. And he says, none of the magic shit is real. He grabs the garlic, he chews on it, and, holds the cross. None of this bothers
Puts the cross on his head.
Or rubs it
like,
on. Right.
There's no magic. There's no magic.
So on one hand, I feel like, are we supposed to take it for granted that he is a vampire? I don't know. I don't know what we're supposed to think.
No, I don't know.
It's strange.
It could be like, it could be he was a regular person, but all this shit in his family and all the paranoia convinced somebody who may be a little unstable that this is a reality. You don't know.
Well, he kind of, when he starts the relationship with the depressed housewife, he kind of suggests that his blood cravings kind of decreases with the sexy time. And he literally calls it the sexy time. What does he call it? He calls it like the sexy time. Makes me feel like I don't crave blood as much as I once did. Something along those lines. But he's still out killing people and drinking their blood, so I don't know.
So there and again, is he a vampire? Or is he just like the weird high school dude who dressed in black who thinks he's a vampire?
Because he eats
As
like
seen on like Primetime Live.
He eats like celery. You see him eating regular food.
Yes.
All right? He's not, I never drink wine. He doesn't do any of that shit. He eats, no, it's just occasionally he also kills people and drinks their blood. So.
And calls in talk radio hosts at late of night to tell them about what's going on.
And that is the craziest shit. Like
that's what makes me think that he's just this lonely weirdo.
Right. He comes to Pittsburgh.
Which is probably why I thought it was more sympathetic when I was younger.
He comes to Pittsburgh, which is a city of millions. I guess he's not in Pittsburgh. I think he's just outside of Pittsburgh. Is what it is. It's like a suburb.
He arrived in Pittsburgh and had to get on with
another train.
Uncle Fester, a slower train, somewhere else.
Calls it's a
weird ethnic community full of dirt roads.
Yes, 100%. But he calls the DJ and is confessing to all his crimes in a very kind of like narrative style. It's like, oh, then I drug the woman and have sex. I'm not used to having sex with the women while they're awake, saying all this shit. And the DJ's like, sounds great, pal. Whatever you say. There's never
been. You ever we can call you back? Everybody's online. We didn't talk to the count. It reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre too.
Right. 100%. You think the DJ, I guess the DJ we're supposed to think doesn't believe it. Like it's all a bunch of BS, but the audience likes listening to it. But this guy is admitting to crimes. Whether you believe he's a vampire or not, he's admitting to assaulting, raping, and murdering people.
Yeah.
Weird. And the cops are not interested. In a city of millions, cops are not interested. We got our own crimes to solve.
Well, the economy was a little rough. People were yearning for their entertainment. If you call the cops, then they arrest them, and who are you going to listen to at late night radio? Oops.
Oh, technical difficulties. Then there's the scene where he goes to Pittsburgh proper because his crazy Uncle Fester tells him, if you do any of your vampire shit in this town, I will stake you without curing your whatever, saving your soul. I'll just stake your
Yeah.
ass. So he goes to
I'll
Pittsburgh.
save your ass.
That's a quote. That's a quote. And he sees a chick at the grocery store that looks, frankly, remarkably like the Lonely Housewife. It was like they looked like they were sisters or something. And he goes to her door, claiming to be deaf. Why did he claim to be deaf? What was the purpose of that?
And an idiot, because I am deaf. The sign is upside down.
Please help me.
That's the thing people used to do. I am deaf, and so
I actually recall that. I remember being at the mall and having somebody come up to me with a card that says, "I am a deaf. Can you please give? Can you please help?" Does never happen to you? It's absolutely happened to me on a couple occasions.
I don't know. Is that a thing?
It was a
What
thing.
if I give you a card that says I am not deaf? Will you give me a coin to go away?
I am Def Leppard.
I am Def Leppard.
So, but you're right. They didn't come to your house typically.
Dude, now that you say that,
100%.
I think that's the thing that happened. You should have stolen his card after you gave him a quarter.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's what I'll do. I'll rob the poor.
Comes at me with a card, I'm going the other way.
I've had that happen as well, where they hand me something like it's meant to be like, you take the card and you give me cash as like a donation, but people hand me stuff, so I just take it and start walking, like without looking at it, because I'm not trying to engage in a conversation. To have them chase me down and be like, no, sir, like we're doing an exchange. I'm like, oh no, here, take your card back. I'm a cold-blooded bastard. It's very hard for me to say like, oh, here's some money, stranger. And
well, first of all, I never carry cash.
I don't either. So,
and I don't want your bullshit.
And I don't want to talk to people.
There are no workhouses.
It always comes back to Ebenezer Scrooge. That is who we are.
Everything comes back to that.
100%. So Martin comes to this woman's house when he's convinced the husband's out of the house, out of town, whatever, and barges into the bathroom or the bedroom, and there's another dude in there. She's having an affair, and the dude's like, "Hey, pal, no reason to get upset." And she goes, "I don't know him."
I don't know who this dude is. And the two of them, they couldn't deal with a teenager that's like busted into their fucking house.
I guess not, because then it was like a Benny Hill episode. People running out of rooms. Right? Is he in here? Call the cops. And he's picking up the phone, pressing the buttons. What the hell? The phone's not working. Keep calling. Where could he be? Where am I? What's happening? And it seems kind of wacky. And then the dude, the cheating dude walks out the door and he locks him out and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" It was a bizarre scene, borderline funny, until the dude gets killed, because they all get stuck with the syringe and they all slowly start like the end of the time warp.
The lover gets hit twice.
Right. Because he's a big dude.
It takes him 20 minutes for the shit to take effect.
Takes 20 minutes.
I mean, honestly, he's not dosing dudes because they have a half an hour to kick his ass before they pass out.
Oh, 100%. So then finally the dude passes out. Martin drags him off into, I don't know, the bushes or something. And you see him slowly stick him with like a sharp stick into his throat. I'm like, ah!
Oh, yeah.
Now there's blood and he drinks that dude's blood. So he gets the blood. Then he goes back to the lonely housewife, the cheating wife, and she's unconscious. And then he just says, "I'm not going to kill you. I've already got the blood. I'll just have sex with your unconscious body. You'll be fine in the morning. You're fine." Crazy.
Honestly, all I kept thinking about was True Blood. I'm like, bro, there's so many fetish people out today that you can probably find a girlfriend who will also let you suck on you.
This is the 70s.
There's
no internet.
Just seems like, rape is control and power. So I feel like I feel like it doesn't matter whether he had a girlfriend. Eventually, he'd be off doing his hijinks anyway.
I mean, he's murdering people too. So who the hell knows?
He is murdering, so he can't live a true blood lifestyle. I mean, there was Anton LaVey. He could have been up at the Black House in San Francisco, you know.
I mean, like I said, this is the 70s. There was no internet to figure out who's into the crazy shit you're into. So I'm not justifying murder and rape, but the personal
male, 26, vampire, looking for a sexy chick that I can, I don't know, sip. Semi-employed. Better if you have your own path.
it would be bad. 100% it would be better. We've barely spoken about the fact that Uncle Fester's grand niece, daughter, whatever the hell she is in a bizarre relationship with Tom Savini, who plays Art.
Tom Savini, who I looked up. Do you know Tom Savini is 5'6"?
He doesn't look like a tall dude. He does not.
Dude, I always thought he was like a beast. I always thought he was at least 6 feet tall.
No.
But he's dressed up in his crazy leather. I had no idea he's like the size of Midge Ure and all these other tiny gentlemen.
And what's especially strange is this is Savini sans mustache, which is right. Weird to see him with no mustache. Fresh,
looking 70s Italian.
100%. And he, of course, he did all the special effects for Martin as well, which were quite unsettling.
It's 2 checks.
100%. 100%. So what was the story? Like the daughter's like, I don't want to hang out with you guys anymore. I'm moving to New York with my boyfriend. I don't even like him that much. And we're going to break up probably next week, but we're out of here. See you guys.
No matter what's happening, I got to get away from Tanta Kringle and my vampire cousin who lives at home. I'm out, which is a smart move.
Yes, 100%. Well, he was lamenting. He's like, she never did right to me again after that. She just met you last week, homie.
He didn't know she had such a fucked up cousin. Clearly, Tanta Kringle was already a weirdo. I love it when they have the priest over. It reminded me of Mom always having the priest. All the discussions were a little bit different.
Yeah, we talked about The Exorcist.
They led him over to he's like, who is played by George Romero.
Yes.
Who is like, he's trying to be like, what? He's like, nah, I don't do that stuff. You need crazy one-eyed Father Giuseppe or something.
Right. No, he was the cool priest. He was the cool priest. He's like, oh yeah. Oh, it was in his most triumphant role. I love. He's like Hitchcock. I don't think I'd ever seen him. Honestly, I say that. I don't think I'd ever really seen him in one of his movies before or since.
I'm not sure. He's been in his own movies before, though, hasn't he?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, he looked like Mr. 70s himself there.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And his wife couldn't look even more 70s. They were all the children of their time.
Now, his wife, the daughter or whatever she is, she was in Creepshow. The granddaughter. She was in Creepshow in a very small role. Do you know who she was in Creepshow?
Was she one of the melty people?
No, she was in that scene in The Crate where they're at the cocktail party and it's like the young couple. And Billy, Adrienne Barbeau, is kind of talking to them like, oh yeah, we gotta hang out and do stuff, and they look all uncomfortable. She was the young wife, still playing the young wife like 10 years later.
And you know what? That was totally an homage to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Yeah, absolutely. She was Elizabeth Taylor.
Let's go. Don't go over to their house for a dinner party, man.
No. Oh, 100% no. No thanks. Anything else about Martin you want to talk about?
Oh, Lord. I mean, there's some sympathy when he goes to meet his girlfriend and she's committed suicide.
Right.
And you do see that kind of.
Well,
It is a little sad.
that was the Twilight Zone twist, essentially, where it's like he's in this relationship with the depressed housewife. He comes to visit her, and she has slit her wrist with a razor blade, the same way he has always done it. So, of course, Burl Ives thinks that he has killed somebody for his own fiendish purposes and then stakes him in his bed. Although it looks like he's hit him in the stomach, in the kidney or something.
The end is quite a shock because he's depressed. He walks in and finds his girlfriend dead.
I didn't even do it.
And wakes up to a stake in his chest with his cousin just going, "Peace! I told you not. I told you not in this town." Boof! Party's over.
Party's over. Credits roll. Boom. Okay. it was something. It was something. Let's go back.
It was a surprise. Yeah, he ends up getting killed for something he didn't do.
See, it's like one of those old comic books from back in the day. Let's look at behind the scenes, shall we? The original cut of the film ran nearly 2 hours and 45 minutes.
That seems quite long.
A little too long. This version has never been screened publicly and was considered lost for a long time. I guess they recently discovered it.
Don't you think the director has copies of his shit somewhere?
He's dead now. So,
well, maybe. I mean, before he died, this was filmed in the 70s.
They don't just keep it in their garage, though, typically. So who knows?
Couldn't they?
I mean, there's no law against it, if that's what you're asking.
It's not a crime. It's not a hate crime.
It's not a hate crime. This film is often said to be director George A. Romero's personal favorite of all of his films. Like you said.
See? No zombies.
Romero's original script for the film had the character of Martin as an older person who was actually established as a vampire struggling to live in a modern world. However, when Romero saw this actor on stage, he changed his mind and rewrote it as a younger, more innocent character.
So what we're saying is, yes, indeed, he's a vampire.
I guess.
Because I think in the movie itself, there's some ambiguity.
There's some, but I honestly don't think there's that much. I mean, well, I don't know. It's bizarre. Who's to say? The film's opening scenes on the train were, of course, shot in train cars that weren't moving. The grips would wave lights past the train windows to give the impression that it was moving. And Romero said that the crew would sometimes forget to tell the grips when the scene was done. And as a result, there'd be less swinging lights. Womp, womp, womp. George Romero originally wanted the entire film to be black and white, but the producers didn't want to risk this experiment and insisted on the majority of the film being in color. So there you go.
Well, I think it's interesting, the flashbacks or the whatever it is. I mean, that did give us a sense that it was from another time.
During a screening of the film in an interview at USC, director George A. Romero related that the MPAA objected to a scene of Martin cutting someone's wrist open with a razor blade. The entire scene would have earned the film a notorious X rating, so we had to trim it by several seconds.
So not the thing where he's naked on top of a naked person? That doesn't earn you the X rating?
No problem there. That's easy. Easy peasy. We forgot. We didn't even talk about this. There's a bizarre drug deal gone bad, the shootout that occurs for seemingly no reason.
Where everybody's dead?
Everybody's dead. They're all.
And he doesn't even take one sip. I thought that was like the lesson, dude. You need to go home and reflect on your life.
Let's go and check the ratings, shall we?
Let's go.
Martin, currently on Rotten Tomatoes, 90%. 90%.
What did I tell you?
Do you know what the audience gave it?
64.
76. Not 90. That's for damn show. Let's look at the top critics here. Variety staff says George A. Romero is still limited by apparently low budgets, but he's inserted some sepia-toned flashback scenes of Martin in Romania that are extraordinarily evocative. I don't know why they pronounced it Romania, but okay, fair. Let's see. Nick Shager of Lessons of Darkness says Romero's finest achievement may have been this 1977 character study about a young, lonely man living in Pittsburgh who may or may not be a vampire.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Aaron, what is your rating for Martin?
I was coming in here guns blazing, gonna put the hate on a thing I used to really like, but the more we talk about it, I go back to I think he's just like a disturbed, lonely individual.
Okay, so what's your rating?
I am not giving it a 90, but I am gonna give it. I am gonna give it 3 Tanta Kringles out of 5.
He is Tanta Kringle with a jingle, jangle, jingle. No way. This is a 1.5er out of 5. This is there are moments that I appreciated, but overall, this is it's almost a low budget snuff film, in all honesty. It's a 70s porno movie without the porn, which is upsetting.
That's upsetting. There's no dangles. There's only, lady
would that have
parts.
made you happier?
I can see lady parts every day.
The scenes of him raping unconscious women and then slicing their wrists lengthwise, it's rough. It's not what I consider a good time. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
It makes him unsympathetic.
It is 100%.
Yeah.
This is not somebody that I'm rooting for, right? This is
I
a
feel
villain.
like instead of sending him from relative to relative, that maybe a trip to the old asylum might help. Some analysis, some medication.
Oh God! When I was researching this, so I was rereading on Wikipedia about Martin. Then there was a link for somebody who was called the Vampire Killer of Sacramento. This is a real person. I read like half of the Wikipedia page. I had to stop because it was so upsetting.
Let's go.
No.
Is someone? Can I guess? Is it someone who just thinks they're killing vampires, but they're really just a serial killer?
No, it's somebody who's like a vampire who thinks they're a vampire and are killing people. Drinking blood, cannibalism, and necrophilia. I had to stop reading it because it was too upsetting. You can do your own Google search. I'm not even getting into it. It was upsetting.
Speaking of serial killers, I did go to Ed Kemper's favorite hangout in Santa Cruz this weekend.
That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. You're the Zodiac killer, aren't you? The truth comes out.
I am the Zodiac killer. I started when I was like 2 years old. That's where I first got my taste for the blood.
100%. I would. Obviously, a lot of people enjoyed this. The critics thought it was dynamite. This is not for me. Not my cup of tea. So there it is. Any last thoughts on Martin, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm not as sympathetic as I was when I first saw it.
No way, man.
I kind of felt sorry for him. Well, it's like When a Stranger Calls, which is horrific for the first 20 minutes. And then you feel sorry for the guy the rest of the time. I felt more sorry for the When the Stranger Calls guy than I do for Martin.
Oh, absolutely.
But I still feel like he's mentally ill.
Well, in When the Stranger Calls, you know what he did, but you don't see what he did. You know what I mean?
Oh, but he is in that room covered in blood, so.
But you don't see that. You just hear them. You hear them talk about it after the fact. Oh, he was covered in blood. Blah blah blah. That makes it a little easier to take, right? If you And you don't get any other details. You just know he murdered whoever was it. Anyway.
It's like the
That's not
shark from Jaws. Less is more.
100%. 100%. Anywho, thank you very much for joining us each. We're on social media, although not really. We haven't even talked about this.
Yeah, Kevin's protesting the media.
I'm protesting social.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely. I will say this: I've taken a break from all social media for the last week or so, but I don't think I'm coming back to X. I think I'm saying a fond farewell to X permanently. I may come back to other things in a more limited way. I still check DMs. If you want to DM me, if you want to send me a message, if you want to email us, I will still check that. I'll still respond to that. But I'm just not surfing the way I used to. And what's funny is that it's a total addiction. So it's like now, it's like I reach for the phone when I get up and I'm like, nope, I'm not checking social media. So now I'm reading my book for this book club every time I pick it up. It was like an 800-page book. I read it in like 3 days or something ridiculous. It's like my method.
I got to get on that and finish reading that myself.
Yes. So there it is. Anyway, we still have the accounts on X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube,
4chan, 8chan,
all
Reddit,
the chans. Right.
Twitch.
You can also email us the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review. Won't you?
Won't you please?
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
Boom, just sold 2 pieces off First Dibs. So
Yay!
I'm on First Dibs and Artsy, Aaron Doherty, Instant Dream Galleries. Go check it out. Buy a picture of Kevin.
Please
and
do.
then just social media. I'm on a bunch of shit, but really, I just really check Instagram.
Aren't you on TikTok? Don't you watch a lot of TikTok?
Mother of pearl. I am on Facebook. I am on X. I am on Threads. I am on
Insta.
I am on Tumblr. I have 2 accounts on fucking Instagram. Honestly, I think I have like 6 accounts on Instagram because I couldn't figure out how to delete 4 other accounts I had.
It's funny. Just like I was leaving social media, as I was leaving, suddenly like a bunch of people were making announcements that they're all leaving. And my crazy.
Why does everybody gotta make an announcement? Walk away. I hate it. Like people leave a group. That's it. I'm never coming back. But on Facebook, if you leave, it doesn't say your name anymore. So that means you're still there.
If you're a podcaster, you're letting people know, your fans, hey, I'm out of here. F off. No.
You're not out of here. You didn't delete your account.
Well, but if you're trying to reach us, and I'm not going to be putting stuff out there as much. But what's also funny is that my Blue Sky account, which has basically been laying fallow for these many months, has been blowing up. Suddenly, it's like rats jumping on the sinking ship. So I don't know what the story is.
There's Threads. I mean, that's the same as X, except when you block Elon Musk, he stays blocked.
He stays blocked.
Like on X, I blocked Elon Musk 3 years ago, and yet when I go to X, it's the first thing I see. Motherfucker, can I report him? I still threatened and stalked.
Please do. As we like to do, we like to include our friends from across the interwebs. Aaron, what you got?
Oh, Sarah Sausage messaged me about our podcast. It's Alive and It's Alive 2, wondering when we're going to do It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive. And Sarah, I just want you to know that I am going to be recording that this Sunday with our friend Leo. And having to... What?
I said boom.
And this is a sacrifice, a personal sacrifice I make to all our fans. That means I will have to put off watching Sister Wives for a whole hour. Because Sundays usually, 90 Day Fiance and Sister Wives. Well, I dread going to work the next day.
Well, there's that. So yes, next week we'll be doing the third and final chapter in the It's Alive saga, Island
So
of
far,
the Alive.
growth mindset. The final so far.
Thus
Growth
far,
mindset.
100%. It's been 40 years, but who knows? Maybe there'll be a
It's
legacy
coming back.
sequel like Fury Road or something. Maverick. And as you said, our buddy Leo will be back to wrap it up with us. So good times. I was also, Aaron, I was on the Fanfliction podcast where we were doing the table read of their made-up Star Wars script that we helped. I was council member number 2, so you'll have to wait and see how that works out. Good times.
Well, if
So
you're
check that out.
reporting that nonsense, I'm Mr. Pink in the all-female production of Reservoir Dogs.
Absolutely. Dynamite from our friends at
Boom!
Cinema Recall.
Dude, my acting was only second to that crazy housewife and Martin.
Finally, I was on an episode of the Movie Loot where
You didn't even
myself,
see your family? What the
I don't even see him, where it was me, it was Pete from Middle Class Film Class, it was Stu from Stu World Order, and it was Ed from Film Effect Podcast discussing all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. We did the heavy lifting so you don't have to. So good times. So thank you. So check out all that shit. Anyway, thank you very much and be well.
I say good day.